This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today's Wednesday, the 11th of June, 2025. So glad you could join us here today. Coming up a little later on in the program, we'll visit with Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net to find out what happened in those markets today. But first, we're going to talk with Dr. Trachelle Carr. She is going to talk with us about the pork export marketplace and where we're seeing some expansion in outside markets and where we are starting to see more promise of a future of expansion. We caught up during the World Pork Expo, and here are the remarks from Dr. Carr.
We're here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, World Pork Expo 2025, and talking with Dr. Trachelle Carr of the National Pork Producers Council. Dr. Carr, thanks so much for visiting with us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we're going to be talking about trade today, and obviously trade's a big topic in agriculture. So from National Pork Producers standpoint, what kind of things are you talking about? What kind of things are you guys concerned with right now?
Yeah, so it's no secret that we're obviously concerned about retaliatory tariffs. We definitely don't want those, but we'll talk about something very pleasant, which is our number one priority, which is Vietnam. So we would like to expand access into Southeast Asia. Vietnam is our number one priority. Right now, we are working very closely with the U.S. government on potential negotiations for expanding into that market. So we're hopeful and we're excited. I believe the Vietnamese were actually here in Iowa earlier this week. So I think there's been some potential commitments on buying pork and soybeans and other commodities. So we are we're feeling hopeful. We're excited about the possibilities for new opportunities.
Yeah, their ag minister was here in Iowa to do some memoranda of understanding, talking about some of those things. We don't always think about Vietnam being that big of a customer because they are a smaller country, but when you compare, what kind of a market share does that really represent for us?
Mm-hmm. So for us, you have to think of a lot of these countries in Asia are wanting variety meats, which also you can interchangeably say offal. There are things that we don't eat here in the United States, so those tend to be great markets for us. China, for example, is a huge market for our variety meats, and so that's essentially it. Like, they are eating things that we don't eat here, and so it just makes a greater opportunity for us.
And then what kind of benefits does that come for the pork industry here? Because we always talk about those cuts that we don't always eat. Obviously, that helps that whole carcass value, right?
Yes, it definitely helps the carcass value for sure.
All right, so we'll talk a little bit how that proceeding is going. I mean, how we're getting that momentum building.
We're getting a lot of that momentum building by the tariffs are actually allowing countries to come into the U.S. to negotiate with the administration. But what we're also noticing is as they're coming in to talk about the tariffs, they're coming in to talk about the non-tariff barriers that are being put up. And so they're asking for specific meetings. Their ministries, their pork associations are asking for meetings with us and other barnyard groups to talk about the non-tariff barriers. Honestly, a lot of issues that we've been dealing with for years, and we haven't really gained any traction on. But the tariff piece is actually helping us on the non-tariff barrier side as far as like opening up the conversations and again, hopefully to gain some momentum and new opportunities.
Okay, outside of Vietnam, are there any of those other countries that we're seeing some kind of growth or work to get growth in the trade situation? Yeah,
we're hoping the UK, we're definitely hoping that there can be some movement there. That was something that was a big focus in the last Trump administration. So it's nice to see that there are bilateral conversations and potential agreements sprouting up for that. So we're really hoping that the UK can be a potential new opportunity. We're always, again, focusing more on, I guess, Oceania. So, of course, Australia, New Zealand are big markets for that. And then, of course, maintaining the top markets we have, the Japan, the Mexico, the Canada, the China, South Korea, that is always going to be a very huge priority, just maintaining the relationships we have, and the relationships we have not just with the top 5, but with the other countries where we have free trade agreements with as well.
All right. So is there anything that our Iowa producers really need to take away from this conversation we're having here today?
To know that the trade team for the National Pork Producers Council, we are definitely advocating for the 60,000 pork producers, not just in DC, but all around the world. We spend a lot of time involved in international organizations that are based in Europe. We all know that we do not export much to Europe, so we have a seat at the table. We are there, we're participating, they know who we are, we're networking, and we don't give up, so we won't stop until we get the access.
All right, Dr. Trachelle Carr has been our guest, and Dr. Carr, where can folks find out more about the work NPPC is doing?
www.nppc.org.
All right, well, thank you so much for the insight. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
That again was Dr. Trachelle Carr of the National Pork Producers Council. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we'll talk with Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
We're here on Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Now back with Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net. And Kaden, looking at those grains today, let's start off with the corn and soybeans. How did we fare today?
Yeah, in a day that feels like we had plenty of news that came this morning and coming tomorrow, just a very dead market today with corn a little bit down, but largely unchanged. New crop just have kind of stuck there all day. Beans closing a bit weaker here into the close as well, but just like I said, feels like you got plenty of news for this market, and it's just not really reacting to much today.
Now, we're talking with Jim earlier this morning. We're talking about obviously positioning ahead of the WASD. How much do you think that was today, or is it just more like they're ready and waiting to see what comes out tomorrow?
Yeah, I guess maybe the second one kind of ready and waiting. In my opinion, whenever you have a WASD in front of what's coming at the end of the month with a quarterly stock report, typically the WASDs preceding those are a bit quieter just because everybody's, kind of waiting for the big numbers coming at the end of the month. So not saying tomorrow's not important. I think you could see a bit of an export adjustment again on the corn side. But again, I just don't really necessarily feel like this is a huge market mover going into this WASD as, certain months out of the year can be.
So corn's been having kind of a positive, export situation right now, hasn't it?
Yeah, corn export's been very strong. That's kind of, we saw an adjustment last month finally. Could see another one this month again and bring that carry out down. It's just strange how the cash market and spreads are not really showing that, that you would think in a time frame like we've seen with carry out continuing to shrink that spreads would be running hot. They just have not been. They've kind of been going backwards over the last month to 2 months. So be really interesting to see, again, outside of the WASI report, what the quarterly stocks does at the end of the month, see if we really do have as tight of stocks as it appears we do. But like you said, the export program has been good. Ethanol numbers were good today, so we're going to find out.
All right, switching gears to the livestock side of things. Obviously, June lives are in delivery, or I believe it's June. Yeah. Let me start that part again, Kaden.
Sure.
All right, and switching over to the livestock side of things, Kaden, obviously the cattle has been having a good run, cash, and the market's trying to close that spread a little bit while they're in delivery mode. Is that kind of what we saw again today, or how did the cattle and hogs fare?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like you're saying, June live cattle up again today, hogs up even stronger today, and feeders giving some back, but they're giving some back off contract highs. So, I mean, all three livestock markets have been really, really good. You could even call them on fire, especially compared to the grains. That's kind of where the money's has seemed to be. So, I think we're above good support here. It's certainly going to see some retracement days like we're seeing on the feeders today, but until you're taking out some pretty major support levels, I don't think you're overly concerned about a large drawdown. Not to say it's not a good idea to be managing some risk here, especially on the hog side, as strong as we've been. But a down day here or there doesn't worry me too bad yet.
All right, so we've been talking about the livestock, having a little bit of fluctuation, nothing crazy. Obviously, grains have some big reports coming out this month, and folks want to maybe get ahead of the 8 ball there and maybe, try to make sure they're protected for any last minute marketing they got to do, or making sure they're set up for 25 and got everything finalized? What's the best way for them to get in touch with agmarket.net?
Yeah, just go to our website there and you can reach myself or anyone from our team there. Typically this time of year is whenever we're making seasonal highs for new crop. Feels like this year, hopefully they're coming a bit later than normal. Maybe get some weather issues in July and August, may see some stuff. So never too late to get started. You can contact us from there. Just go to our website.
All right, Kaden, we thank you so much for the insight. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate you.
At the close, July corn was down 1 3/4 at 4.37 even. Soybeans down 7 1/4 at 10.50 1/2. Soy meal down $1.70 at 2.9420. Soy oil 23 cents higher at 48.02. Chicago wheat down 1/4 cent at 5.34 1/4. Kansas wheat down a penny at 5.26 1/4. Minneapolis spring wheat up 4 cents at 6.17 1/4. Oats up 6 1/4 at 3.76 1/4. On the Merc, live cattle 75 cents higher at 227.82. Feeders down 207 at 311.07. Lean hogs 65 cents higher at 108.85. Pork cutouts 15 cents higher at 115.90. Class 3 milk a penny higher at 18.82.
And that's been a check of the closing market recap, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, X, and our YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified each time we put out a new video project. You can also catch replays of the Iowa Ag Matters program, Ag Matters PM, and our long-running weekend Ag Matters program online under the podcast tab, iowaagnet.com. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, Ashton Jolly, and Andy Peterson, thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.